All right, if Ways and Means, we're going to do a behind the bar introduction on the floor. So if I could just have the chamber, with all due respect, simmer down a little bit. Okay, all yours, Chairwoman.
Thank you, Majority Leader. So I'll go ahead and call the Committee on Ways and Means to order, having established a quorum. We are here to do a bill introduction. So with that, we have a BDR 7-1144 relating to business prohibiting the Secretary of State from renewing the state business license of a person who owes a debt to a state agency under certain circumstances, revising provisions governing notifications of certain debts collected by the state controller, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. Making sure I count everyone. All good. Chair will accept a motion from Vice Chair Monroe Moreno, a second from Assemblyman Hodegui. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimously present of members present. Thank you. If I could have the Ways and Means members' attention one more time, please. If you were given a floor statement for Ways and Means on one of the 400 bills, and it's one of those short bills, if there's no real question, basically the description of the bill that the clerk will read is the whole bill. Unless there's a question, I don't believe there's any necessity to dig into floor statements today. Unless somebody has a question, we'll be happy to answer it. So you've got the floor statement just in case, but you don't have to pop up, okay?
Testing. Testing. Testing.
The assembly will come to order. The chief clerk will call a roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod, Assemblywoman Black, Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblywoman Carlton, Assemblywoman Cohen, Assemblywoman Considine, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblyman Ellison, Assemblyman Flores, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Hathan, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblywoman Hardy, Assemblywoman Howdigi, Assemblywoman Kasama, Assemblywoman Krasner, Assemblyman Levitt, Assemblywoman Martinez, Assemblywoman Marzola, Assemblyman Matthews, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, Assemblyman C.H. Miller, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, Assemblywoman Wynn, Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Ortlicker, Assemblywoman Peters, Assemblyman Roberts, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblywoman Thomas, Assemblywoman Titus, Assemblywoman Tolles, Assemblywoman Torres, Assemblyman Lutz, Assemblyman Wheeler, Assemblyman Yeager, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblyman O'Neill, Speaker Frierson.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect that Assemblywoman Gonzalez and Assemblyman O'Neill are absent excused. We have 40 members present.
You've heard the motion. Oh, sorry. It's not a motion. I was ready to go. There are 40 members present, 2 members absent. There is a quorum. The assembly will please rise for the prayer by Reverend Karen Foster, the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship in Northern Nevada, Reno.
May we take a deep breath together as we pray. Ground of our being, mystery of all that is, we thank you for the privilege of serving. May all of our work always be for the greater good. May we take the opportunity to care for the most vulnerable among us. In caring for our fellow human beings, may we listen and really hear. May we look and really see. May we go the extra mile to care. May our hearts be moved by compassion. May we take this responsibility that we have and do what is just and humane. May we gather our strength and our courage and accomplish together that which we could never do alone. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Order business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Wednesday.
Mr. Speaker.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with the reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make necessary corrections or additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go to order business 4, reports to standing committee.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which were referred Senate Bills 112, 145, 196, 408, has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. Sandra Howdigi, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Government Affairs, to which were referred Senate Bills 12, 14, 15, 16, 28, 37, 38, 47, 72, 127, 138, 253, 311, 372 has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. Edgar Flores, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services, to which were referred Senate Bill 61, 305, 379, 391 has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. Rochelle T. Wynn, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Ways and Means, to which was referred Assembly Bill 459 has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. Amended. And your Committee on Ways and Means, to which was referred Assembly Bill 463 has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. Amended. Maggie Carlton, Chair.
Go to order business 8, communications.
United States Senate May 12, 2021. The Honorable Nicole Canizaro, Majority Leader of the Nevada State Senate, and the Honorable Jason Ferguson, Speaker of the Nevada Assembly, 401 South Carson Street, Carson City, Nevada 89701. Dear Majority Leader Canizaro and Speaker Frierson, I am writing to request the opportunity to speak before the distinguished members of the Nevada State Legislature on Tuesday, May 18, 2021 at 5 p.m. I look forward to speaking about the pressing issues before the United States Congress in the upcoming months and how they will affect the great state of Nevada. I thank you in advance for your kind consideration. Sincerely, Catherine Cortez Masto, United States Senator.
We'll go to order business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference to bills.
Assembly Bill 482, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means. An act relating to businesses prohibiting the Secretary of State from renewing the state business license of a person who owes a debt to a state agency under certain circumstances, raising provisions governing notifications of certain debts collected by the state controller and providing other measures properly thereto.
Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move that Assembly Bill 482 be referred to your Committee on Ways and Means.
Without objection, so referred. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson, can we go to order business 1?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under Order Business 1, may the record reflect that Assemblyman O'Neill is present.
Record shall so reflect. Can we go back to order business 9, introduction?
Assembly Bill 483, introduced by Assemblyman Titus et al. An act relating to internet, and this is an emergency request. An act relating to internet privacy, revising the definition of the terms consumer and operator for the purposes of requiring certain operators of internet websites or online services which are owned or operated for the purposes of a public awareness campaign conducted by or on behalf of a governmental entity to comply with certain requirements and restrictions concerning the collection and sale of certain personally identifiable information about a consumer and providing other matters properly thereto.
Assemblywoman Howdigy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move that Assembly Bill 483 be referred to your Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Without objection, so referred. Go to order business 11, second reading and amendment.
Assembly Bill 461, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Office of the Attorney General for the cost of replacing standard glass windows and doors with ballistic glass and frames at the Carson City office and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
How many members of Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Assembly Bill 462, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the Department of Corrections for an upgrade to and reintegration of certain management systems and replacement of camera storage area networks and ovens and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
How many members of Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Senate Bill 9, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to securities, creating an exemption from licensing requirements for investment advisors to certain private funds and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 12, end of Section 12, end of bill.
How many members of Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 501, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Judiciary.
Assemblywoman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Amendment 501 to Senate Bill 9.
Assemblyman Yeager has moved that the Assembly adopt Amendment 501 to Senate Bill 9. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 501 requires in Section 4.5 that the Securities Administrator submit biennial reports to the Legislative Counsel Bureau, requires the report to be published on an internet website, and makes conforming changes in other sections of the bill.
Any further remarks? All those in favor of the Assembly adopting Amendment 501 to Senate Bill 9, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Amendments adopted. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Bills are ordered general file.
Senate Bill 41, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to criminal procedure, revising provisions relating to orders authorizing the installation, use of a pen register or trap and trace device and providing other matters properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, end of bill.
How many members of Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Senate Bill 62, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to solicitation of contributions, expanding the types of organizations required to register with the Secretary of State as charitable organization and make certain disclosures in connection with the solicitation of contributions, revising provisions governing the information required to be filed with the Secretary of State to register as a charitable organization, revising the information required to be disclosed in connection with the solicitation of contributions, revising provisions governing the solicitation of contributions by certain charitable organizations and nonprofit corporations and providing in the most proper name thereto, the people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 9, end of Section 9, end of bill.
Any members to second one of the bills as a whole?
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Senate Bill 122, introduced by Senators Brooks and Spearman, an act related to occupational safety requiring certain employees of a cannabis establishment to receive certain health and safety training, requiring a cannabis establishment to suspend or terminate the employment of an employee who fails to complete such training, providing administrative penalties and providing other matters properly named thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 17, end of Section 17, end of bill.
Any members to second one of the bills as a whole?
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Senate Bill 168, introduced by Senators Lang et al., an act relating to cannabis, authorizing the Cannabis Compliance Board to adopt regulations imposing requirements relating to the packaging and labeling of cannabis and cannabis products, authorizing a cannabis sales facility to engage in curbside pickup under certain circumstances, revising certain requirements relating to the labeling of cannabis products, revising requirements relating to information that is required to be provided to purchasers of cannabis or cannabis products, requiring the board to adopt regulations allowing for certain records of a cannabis establishment to be created and maintained in an electronic format, and providing in the minutes properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 8, end of Section 8, end of bill.
Any members to second one of the bills as a whole?
There are none.
The bills ordered general file.
Senate Bill 173, introduced by Senators Dondero, Lupe et al., Assemblywomen Anderson and Torres, an act relating to education, authorizing the Board of Trustees of a school district and the State Public Charter School Authority to submit to the Superintendent of Public Instruction plans to address loss of learning that occurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, requiring the submission of certain entities of certain reports relating to such plans to address loss of learning and providing other matters properly named thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Any members to second one of the bills as a whole?
I have Amendment 502, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Education.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Amendment 502 to Senate Bill 173.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod move that the Assembly adopt Amendment 502 to Senate Bill 173. Remarks?
Amendment 502 adds English learners to the list of pupils identified at risk of loss of learning, revises requirements relating to hiring recently retired public employees for summer school program, requires district and charter schools to compare results of certain examinations and assessments administered during spring and fall before and after the completion of summer school, and revise certain dates.
Any further remarks? All those in favor of the Assembly adopting Amendment 502 to Senate Bill 173 signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Bills ordered general file.
Senate Bill 332, introduced by Senator Scheibel, an act relating to structured settlements, requiring structured settlement purchase companies to register with the Consumer Affairs Division of the Department of Business and Industry, prohibiting certain activities by structured settlement purchase companies and their employees and representatives, setting forth procedures and requirements concerning the transfer of structured settlement payment rights, and providing in the matters properly named thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 45, end of Section 45, end of bill.
Any members to second one of the bills as a whole?
I have Amendment 510, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Judiciary.
Senator Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Assembly adopt Amendment 510 to Senate Bill 332.
Senator Yeager's moved that the Assembly adopt Amendment 510 to Senate Bill 332. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 510 makes various technical changes to the bill.
Any further remarks? All those in favor of the Assembly adopting Amendment 510 to Senate Bill 332 signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Amendment is adopted. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered general file.
Senate Bill 357, introduced by request, Senate Committee on Judiciary. An act relating to the Department of Corrections, requiring the department to track and report expenses that are directly related to housing youthful offenders and providing other matters properly named thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
Item members to second one of the bills as a whole?
There are none.
Bills ordered general file. Now go to order business 12. Assemblywoman Benita Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under Order Business 8.
Order business 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 37 and Assembly Bill 349 be taken from their place on general file and be placed to the bottom of general file.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go back to order business 12, general file on third reading.
Assembly Bill 61, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, act relating to trade practices, increasing penalties for certain offenses relating to the use of a device for automatic dialing and announcing, establishing certain practices, deceptive trade practices, authorizing the imposition of additional civil penalties for certain deceptive trade practices and certain actions and proceedings under certain circumstances, revising provisions relating to certain administrative hearings, revising the penalties for willfully and knowingly engaging in a deceptive trade practice, revising provisions relating to the credit service organizations, eliminating the statute of limitations for certain civil actions involving deceptive trade practices which are brought by the Attorney General, authorizing the Consumer's Advocate of the Bureau of Consumer Protection in the Office of the Attorney General to have access to certain records, providing penalties, and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 35.7, end of Section 35.7, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
Amendment 492, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means.
Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move for the adoption of Amendment 492 to Assembly Bill 61.
Assemblywoman Carlton moved that the Assembly adopt Amendment 492 to Assembly Bill 61. Remarks?
And thank you, Mr. Speaker. The sections that created a fiscal note have been removed.
Any further remarks? All those in favor of the Assembly adopting Amendment 492 to Assembly Bill 61 signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Members adopted. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Bill's order general fund.
Assembly Bill 191, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to Medicaid, requiring the state plan for Medicaid to include coverage for the services of a community health worker under certain circumstances and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
On the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? There being no remarks, Chief Clerk, open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 41 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent, excused. Bill MC, the Constitutional Majority, declare passed. Order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 192, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, an act relating to public health, advising provisions relating to the reporting of cases of syphilis, requiring with certain exceptions the testing of pregnant women for certain sexually transmitted infections, revising provisions concerning testing and treatment of pregnant women for syphilis, restricting the amount that certain persons and facilities may require a third-party insurer to pay for certain testing, revising penalties for failure to comply with provisions concerning testing of pregnant women for sexually transmitted infections, providing a civil penalty, requiring certain third-party insurers to cover the testing of pregnant women for certain sexually transmitted infections, and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 21, end of Section 21, end of bill.
On the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
Amendment 505, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means.
Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move for the adoption of Amendment 505 to Assembly Bill 192.
Assemblywoman Carlton moved that the Assembly adopt Amendment 505 to Assembly Bill 192. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It adds for persons who willfully violate these requirements of the provisions of the bill.
Any further remarks? All those in favor of the Assembly adopting Amendment 505 to Assembly Bill 192 signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Amendments adopted. Any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
Bill's order general fund.
Assembly Bill 216, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, and act relating to Medicaid, requiring the state plan for Medicaid to include coverage for certain cognitive assessment and care planning services, and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
On the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? Assemblywoman Gorillo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 216 requires Medicaid to cover certain services for persons with cognitive impairments.
Any further remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk, open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 40 ayes, 1 nay, 1 absent, excused. Bill 11, the Constitutional Majority, declare passed, and order transmitted to the Senate. Can we go to order business 1?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order business 1. May the record reflect that Assemblywoman Gonzalez is present.
Record shall so reflect. Go back to order business 12, general file and third reading.
Assembly Bill 256, introduced by Assemblyman Summers Armstrong et al., an act relating to Medicaid, requiring the state plan for Medicaid to provide coverage of dualist services to the extent authorized by federal law, requiring the Department of Health and Human Services to apply for a waiver to the state plan amendment to receive federal funding for coverage of dualist services, requiring any person who desires to provide dualist services to a recipient of Medicaid to enroll with the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy of the Department, requiring an enrolled doula to report the abuse of certain persons and providing of an properly thereto, the people state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 5, end of Section 5, end of bill.
Are there amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 256, as amended, requires a doula who desires to receive reimbursement through the Medicaid program for the provision of doula services to be a Medicaid recipient to enroll within the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy of the Department of Health and Human Services.
Any further remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Any wishing to change their vote? There are 33 ayes, 9 nays. The bill received the Council's majority. Declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 404, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, an act relating to domestic violence, establishing provisions relating to the proper venue for filing an application for an order for protection against domestic violence, revising provisions relating to the information included in an application for an order for protection against domestic violence, and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
Are there amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 504, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means.
Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move for the adoption of Amendment 504 to Assembly Bill 404.
Assemblywoman Carlton moved that the Assembly adopt Amendment 504 to Assembly Bill 404. Remarks?
Thank you. It clarifies that information should be released for criminal justice purposes and other authorized agencies.
Any further remarks? All those in favor of the Assembly adopting Amendment 504 to Assembly Bill 404, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Any further amendments to the bill? Bill's order general file.
Assembly Bill 451, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Office of the Secretary of State for the replacement of computer hardware and software and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? Assemblywoman Black.
I actually have an order of business 15 on this one. I don't have the remarks.
All right. Assemblywoman Howdigy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 451 appropriates $2,530,292 from the State General Fund to the Office of the Secretary of State for the replacement of computer hardware.
Further remarks? Assemblywoman Black.
Speaker, order of business 15.
Order of business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In March 2020, the governor overreacted to the COVID pandemic and shut down the state without consulting with, let alone getting approval from, the Nevada Legislature. Because of the hole the governor's shutdown orders created in our budget, this body convened in a special session last July, drained our rainy day fund, and approved various spending cuts. Since that time, legislators have found some extra money in sofa cushions, and it's burning a hole in our pocket.
Speaker, order of business, just want to clarify if you're rising in support of opposition. And then make sure you're talking on AB 451.
Opposition.
To the bill.
Yes, to the bill. Can I continue?
Please continue.
Thank you. So instead of first replenishing the rainy day fund, there's a rush to spend the money on restoring cuts that were deemed non-essential last July. When you add up all these items, a penny here and a penny there, we're talking some real money. By my calculation, over $155 million in total spending. This is fiscally reckless, especially in light of today's ruling by the Nevada Supreme Court that the 2019 legislature unlawfully imposed around $100 million in tax hikes that now must be returned to taxpayers. Most of these appropriations are included in next year's budget. Instead of spending the money this year, we should do the fiscally responsible thing and use this money to replenish the rainy day fund that was drained last summer, or use the money to cover the loss because of the Nevada Supreme Court's decision. As such, I will be voting against all appropriation requests and encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. And I would ask that remarks like that be reserved for order business 15 at the end, remarks from the floor, if they're not addressing specifically that bill. I appreciate that you did remark that you were voting against that bill, but the substance didn't address the actual language of the bill. And so I would just ask that the body refer to the bills in the remarks and discussions about the bills, and in overall remarks, if they want to give explanations about their philosophy about some of the bills that come before the body, I will certainly accommodate that in order business 15 at the end as well. Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to rise to address some of the issues, but I believe you addressed them very succinctly. This is an appropriation for computer hardware. It's perfectly acceptable to process this at this time. Typically, the process is to get all the assembly bills out of the Assembly and into the Senate so that when we get closer to the end of session, everything is staged in the right place so that we can move it all appropriately. This is fiscally sound. I would never insinuate that our staff or the committee would do something that was not fiscally sound. There are ongoing conversations about how the CARES money, the HERF money, the GEAR money, and the rescue money will be handled in committee in an open forum. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I believe we've cleared the record on this.
Thank you. Any further remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 35 ayes, 7 ayes. Bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 453, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the account for pensions for scoliosis, diseases related to asbestos, and other disabilities, and providing other means properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Any members to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks, Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 453 makes a one-time general fund appropriation of $34,000 to the account for pensions for silicosis, diseases related to asbestos, and other disabilities.
Any further remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 37 ayes, 5 nays. Bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 454, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Nevada Promise Scholarship account to support the Nevada Promise Scholarship Program and providing other means properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Any members to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks, Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 454 provides for general fund appropriations of $7,328,366 to the Nevada Promise Scholarship account to provide scholarships for eligible students attending community college within the state.
Any further remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 36 ayes, 6 nays. Bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 455, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Office of the State Controller for the replacement of printers and providing other means properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Any members to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 36 ayes, 6 nays. Bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 456, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Aging and Disability Services Division of the Department of Health and Human Services for pavement maintenance at the Jones campus of the Desert Regional Center and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill. There
Are there members to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
are none.
Remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 37 ayes, 5 nays. Bill having received the constitutional majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 458, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means. An act making appropriation to the Real Estate Division of the Department of Business and Industry for an upgrade of its licensing software system and the replacement of computer hardware and software and providing other measures properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Any members to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change? Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 36 ayes, 6 nays. Bill MC, the Constitution majority, declare passed. Order transmitted to Senate.
Assembly Bill 460, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Division of Museums and History of the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs to restore the school bus program to reimburse transportation costs for public school students to visit state museums and providing other measures appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks, Assemblyman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of Assembly Bill 460. This appropriation hits to the heart of kids going on field trips. And I don't know about you, but that was some of the best days in elementary and high school when we got to go on field trips. And when we come out of this pandemic and children can get back to what they really need to do, this gives the resources to the school districts to be able to provide children buses to go on field trips. And I will give the body a clear heads up as 460 leaves this room and passes the Wally Warren clock and enters the Senate, I plan on proposing an amendment to the bill, if the time is appropriate, to make sure that there are more dollars available for field trips in the future.
Thank you. Any further remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 37 ayes, 5 nays. Bill received the Constitutional majority, declared passed, and order transmitted to Senate.
Assembly Bill 464, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to restore the balances in the stale claims account, the emergency account, the reserve for statutory contingency account, and the contingency account, and providing other measures appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 36 ayes, 6 nays. Bill received the Constitutional majority, declared passed, and order transmitted to Senate.
Assembly Bill 465, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Division of Water Resources of the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for the repair and maintenance of the South Fork Dam and providing other measures appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are the amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 37 ayes, 5 nays. Bill received the Constitutional majority, declared passed, order transmitted to Senate.
Assembly Bill 466, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations for the Department of Corrections for hepatitis C treatments for offenders and new and replacement medical and dental equipment and providing other measures appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
All right, members to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 35 ayes, 7 nays. The bill having the Constitutional majority, declared passed, order transmitted to Senate.
Assembly Bill 467, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations for the Department of Transportation for the replacement of the Nevada shared radio system and providing other measures appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
All right, members to Section 1 of the bill as a whole.
There are none.
Remarks? Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of AB 467. Over the years, we've made numerous appropriations to the radio system in this state. There was a day when my husband was riding in a car as a P&P officer where when he made the call went to Carson City and maybe the backup showed up in Las Vegas when he needed it. These dollars going to this shared radio system will keep public safety and everyone who needs this system, especially when we get into fire season, be able to have the communicability that they need to take care of the business of this state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Assemblyman Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this Assembly bill because public safety is important. The safety of our public safety officers are important, and they need this equipment to remain safe in this state. So I appreciate everybody else's support. Thank you.
Any further remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 37 ayes, 5 nays. Bill MC, the Constitutional Majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 468, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making appropriations to the various divisions of the Department of Motor Vehicles for the replacement of computer hardware and software and certain other equipment and providing other matters appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 10, end of Section 10, end of bill.
On the amendments, Section 1 of Bill as a whole.
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 36 ayes, 6 nays. Bill MC, the Constitutional Majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 469, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making a supplemental appropriation to the Office of the Secretary of State for the projected shortfall related to credit card processing fees and providing other matters appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
On the amendments to Section 1 of the Bill as a whole.
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 35 ayes, 7 nays. Bill MC, the Constitutional Majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 470, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making a supplemental appropriation to the Real Estate Division of the Department of Business and Industry for a projected shortfall related to timeshare filing fees and providing other matters appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Any amendments to Section 1 of the Bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 35 ayes, 7 nays. Bill MC, the Constitutional Majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 474, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to and authorizing the expenditure of money by the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services of the Department of Health and Human Services for the continuation of the Technology Modernization Project for the Child Support Enforcement Program and providing other matters appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
On the amendments to Section 1 of the Bill as a whole.
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 36 ayes, 6 nays. Bill MC, the Constitutional Majority, declare passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 475, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means, an act making an appropriation to the Millennium Scholarship Trust Fund to support the Governor Gwynn Millennium Scholarship Program and providing other matters appropriately thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
On the amendments to Section 1 of the Bill as a whole.
There are none.
Remarks? Assemblywoman Carlton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of AB 475. This appropriation goes to the Governor Gwynn Millennium Scholarship Program, and I had the honor in my first session here in this building, at the north end of the building, to support this scholarship program. And I remember the evening that Governor Gwynn and I stood in the Old Globe and debated on how this money should be spent. It's a very dear memory to me. I really wanted it to focus more on health care, but he truly believed that making sure that our Nevada students that graduated from a Nevada high school had an opportunity to go to college when there weren't other opportunities there for them. He convinced me, and it has gone forward. We have done everything we can to shore this up over the years, and I believe no matter what happens in the future, I would hope all of my colleagues that follow behind me value this scholarship, and please keep it going. We always hear the good stories of the kids that this scholarship made the difference in their lives.
Further remarks, Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order Business 15.
Order Business 15.
I rise in support of this, the bill, AB 475, and I'd like to thank my colleague from District 14. I'm a recipient of the Millennium Scholarship, as I know a few other of my colleagues are here today. Without that, a lot of us would not have been able to go to college. And I just urge my colleagues to also support this bill. Our education in this state is in dire need of additional help, and today we have the opportunity to send kids to school for higher education and further their degrees. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further remarks? Assemblywoman Tolles.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order Business 15.
Yes, I rise in support of AB 475. I've had countless students over the years who have taken advantage of these scholarships, and it's made a difference for their future, for the rest of their lives. It's part of building our workforce here in Nevada and making sure that we keep our Nevada students here contributing to our economy. So I do urge all my colleagues to support.
Any further remarks? Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this AB 475 to fund Millennium Scholarships. As the mother of 8 children, who I'm proud to say were all recipients of the Millennium Scholarship, it was a great blessing for them and an incredible blessing in our personal lives, as we all know that college is expensive. And so I'm grateful to the state for this program, and I'm proud to be able to support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise also in support of AB 475. For those of us that were thinking that this should be in some other budget and not a line item, this has always been a line item, and there is no other budget it could go into. And this is a great program. I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no further remarks, Chief Clerk, open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 39 ayes, 3 nays. Bill received the constitutional majority. Declared passed and order transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 476, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means and Act relating to the Department of Motor Vehicles, renaming the Division of Management Services and Programs of the Department of Motor Vehicles as the Division of Research and Project Management, and providing other measures properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are any members of Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Remarks? There being none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Anyone wishing to change their vote? There are 36 ayes, 6 nays. Bill received the constitutional majority. Declared passed and order transmitted to the Senate. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill 8, 19, 21, 32, 42, 146, 148, 156, 161, 177, 251, 309, 364, 376, 398, 400, and AB 37 and AB 49 be taken from their place in general file and be moved to be placed on general file for the next legislative day.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We will go. We have a 13. Okay. Is this 35 and 138? Under Order Business 13, there being no objection, the Speaker and the Chief Clerk will sign Assembly Bills 35 and 138 and Senate Bill 71. Now go to Order Business 15, remarks from the floor. Assemblywoman Torres. I almost said Tolez.
I know it gets confusing here. Order of Business 15, Mr. Speaker.
Order Business 15.
Thank you. Today is a very special day for me. We're able to invite members of the public at this time, and I want to recognize the chair of the Nevada Hispanic Youth Legislative Caucus, and that's Elisa Martinez Alvarado, who has the opportunity and the privilege to be here in the building today, and I think she'll be attending some of the committees this afternoon. I know that she's had the privilege of meeting with many of the legislators in this House and the other House as well, so if we could all give her a warm welcome.
Assemblyman Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order Business 15.
Order Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to recognize Mi Familia Bota. I know they are in the building today. Please make sure that you give some time. They're talking about very important issues to them, specifically Cecia, Maria, and Jocelyn. Just a huge shout out for all the work they do in the community. I'm incredibly proud to call them friends and family. So if you could please give them a warm welcome.
Assemblyman Ortlicker.
Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to recognize members of the 2021 graduating class at the UNLV William S. Boyce School of Law, who will have their commencement tomorrow morning. I've had the privilege of teaching these students for the past 3 years, and they are a phenomenal group. Highly accomplished academically, they also have been huge providers of pro bono services to the community, contributing thousands of hours of free legal assistance. Their commitment to public service is outstanding. I'd like to recognize in particular members of the class who have distinguished themselves this session as legislative externs, often testifying at committee hearings. We have benefited from the efforts of 5 graduating students, Chelsea Armstrong, Jillian Block, Elizabeth Davenport, Ariel Williams, and Kelsey Hardy, the daughter of Assembly colleague from District 22. We are very fortunate that members of the Boyd, Law Class of 2021 will be providing legal services for many years to come. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Hardy.
So I would like to say tomorrow, as you've heard, is a very special day for me and for our family. My daughter Kelsey will be graduating from Boyd Law School, and she is also going to be recognized as one of 18 students receiving a Dean's Honor. So needless to say, I'm very proud of her. Many of you know her and have worked with her before. So would you please say congratulations to Kelsey and to all of the wonderful graduates from Boyd Law School. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Denise Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Seeing no other business before us, I move that the Assembly adjourn until Monday, March 17th, 2021 at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
May, I think you said March.
May? Yeah, that's better. How about May?
You all heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.